All right. So today we're going to be talking about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Initial release date August 8th, 2017. Developed and published by Ninja Theory. Cost $30 or your regional equivalent. Platforms PS4, Microsoft Windows. Did it also come out for Xbox?
Yeah, I don't know.
I have no clue.
You know, that probably would have been a good idea to check this beforehand.
Okay, we can have a rough start.
Yeah, it always seems like we have.
It's fitting
No,
for this game, I think.
It just says PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows.
That's a
Interesting.
little weird.
Maybe it's a PS4 exclusive. They've had more than a couple of those. But yeah, let's just go around, give our brief starting thoughts on the game, how much we've played, because I think only one of us has finished it. Yeah. Just how much you played it, what you think of it, and what you played it on. And I guess I'll start it because I probably have the least to say because I didn't have a ton of time to play this game. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I played about an hour and a half. I've beat one of the bosses so far. It's been an experience. I thought it was interesting. When I was starting out, I was like, oh, is it going to be like ASMR simulator the whole game? But but I've liked it. I think the gameplay is it's nothing super special, but I think the experience overall has been pretty interesting. And we can move it on to the next person.
I've played it for 10 hours and I beat it. When I started it, I was just messing around with all the little things, and that was like that whole maybe an hour of just playing around with stuff to see how the game handled and stuff. All of my problems with the game almost all of them are just like little nitpicky things. And yeah, I'd say I mostly enjoyed the story, and eventually I enjoyed some of the combat, but we'll get into that.
I'm Nick. Played on PC. I'm nearly done with the game. I think. I'm told I'm not, but I don't know. But it's been a unique experience. I like the game, even though I think it has quite a bit of flaws in terms of gameplay. But I think it's unique enough and strong enough to hold on its own. Yeah.
All right, I'm Noah. I've played for about 7 hours now. I'm playing on PC, but I play with a controller. Yeah, I'm almost done. I think I've got one more achievement, which I think would assume would be the last boss or whatever, so I think I'm pretty close. So far, I really enjoyed it, though.
All right.
Oh, you mentioned controller. I also play with a controller. Did everyone play with controllers?
I did.
I play keyboard and mouse.
Okay. Because there's one very interesting segment in the middle of the game. I don't know how we're gonna do this,
Zach,
but
can you give the synopsis of the game?
Yeah, I can.
Do that.
Probably should have read that out initially, but I'm professional and shit. From the makers of Heavenly Sword, Enslaved, Odyssey of the West, and Devil May Cry comes a warrior's brutal journey into myth and madness. Set in the Viking Age, a broken Celtic warrior embarks on a haunting vision quest into Viking hell to fight for the soul of her dead lover. And you basically play as this Celtic warrior named Senua, who's trying to basically fight her way into hell to save the soul of this person who died. And that is everything I know so far.
Yeah, she pretty much like has like schizophrenia or some shit.
Yeah, that's another big thing about it. The devs worked closely with neuroscientists, nonprofit organizations to try to accurately portray psychosis and mental illness, and I think they do a good job of it.
well,
Yeah.
okay. So this is one of the first things that bothered me with the game. They very well may be, because I don't have a mental illness. I don't know. but all they do is they do audio and visual hallucinations in the form of cutscenes a lot and stuff like that, and then like weird morphing stuff. But like I I don't know.
What?
They just took the most obvious approach, it feels like, for those things, and that bothers me a little bit. I don't know.
I mean, it's a game. You can't really do much more than visual and audio.
They do
and, like-
like it's a little bit more subtle. Like the character believes that like she needs to do these things to basically save this person's soul, and she believes certain things that aren't completely rational. So it's a little bit more subtle than that. Like the character is going through stuff, but yeah, it's difficult to portray everything 100% accurate.
But that's the thing that killed me. I several times I thought I had gotten stuck in the game, or rather, I thought they were being clever with it, and I was like, oh, I solved some puzzle, but then the doors weren't opening, and it was actually a bug. But what I thought was, I was like, oh, they're being clever with it. Where this has nothing to do with the solution. I just like you do it, and then you actually slip through some cave somewhere, and I was like, oh, okay, so like solving it won't necessarily progress because it's just part of the hallucination. And I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. And then it wasn't. It was just a bug. And I was like, oh. And
I get you there.
like,
Yeah, it would be interesting if they did stuff like that, but at the same time, it's a game.
I let myself get. I got my hopes up, and I was like, I spent like 20 minutes several times, like trying to figure out the other way through, and it's like, no, it's just a bug. Oh.
Yeah, I did have the problem with opening the doors and shit too, and that
same
got a little
here.
bit annoying.
I think
Would
like
be interesting if
everyone's
they-
encountered that bug.
I can't remember if I ever did. Because I played it like the first day it came out, pretty much. That's when I did like the majority of the game.
Did all of you guys use headphones while playing the game?
Yep.
I did, yeah.
I tried it with and without. The voices. I think after the first hour of gameplay, I just completely tuned out the voices. Like I still had the audio on. I still had them turned on.
Yeah,
I
you
just
get-
completely stopped noticing them. Yeah.
And sometimes like they just become helpful. Actually,
Yeah, they're the proximity alert for enemies, right?
Yeah, they're actually
they do lots of things.
Yeah, they're kind of the substitute for a HUD. Like in the middle of combat, they'll like be saying stuff, and you can kind of determine how much health you have left if you have that, because you don't have a health bar or anything.
Yeah, like behind you saying that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes when just non-combat, like they'll say useful things like over there, when you're slightly turned somewhere, makes you like kind of look a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And 90% of the time, they're just fucking with you. Like, oh, why'd you do that? Oh, don't do that. You're stupid.
Well, the first time it's useful, but then they keep repeating it, so then
Yeah.
you sort of just like tune it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But with
What,
like really nice curved headphones, the voices talking like I think blend really well with the game.
Well,
Yeah.
and they're always behind you. They're either behind you or a little to the left.
Yeah, it sounds like they're like whispering in your ear. Like that's what I meant when I was talking about like ASMR simulator. It's
For
like,
me, it's completely different. Sometimes I have it like in front to the left of me. Sometimes I'll have it to the right in front, or completely to the right.
Yeah, they seem pretty all over for me too.
It could be dependent on like your headphones as well, like how good of quality they are.
yeah, it probably does. So, what do you guys think of the puzzles? Like, I know I haven't seen too many of the puzzles. I've just seen like the rhyme line stuff up puzzles and kind of the illusion puzzles.
They
But I
felt
haven't-
to me they were like, we can't just have this be a walking simulator. We better put in puzzles.
Yep, and it just falls into a pattern of like puzzles, bad guys, walk some more, repeat.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, I've gone 2 rooms without enemies. They're gonna any second now. Oh, there they are.
Yeah, I could always kind of tell where the enemies were going to be based on the environment, because it always
that too.
kind of puts you into this little arena place, and then
Yep.
it's like, okay, fight the enemies. That kind of made it feel really like God of War-ish, but it also made it a little bit like immersion breaking. Like, oh, this is a game. They need this little area for like enemies. Like, they couldn't just have like a random enemy guarding a gate or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did it bother anyone else that until you kill the first boss, you only ever see the one enemy?
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. Like, how much of a variety is there with the enemies?
There's not many.
Later there are, but I mean, there's like what? There's 5 total because there's the guy with the elk on his head. There's a guy with a Roman helmet and a mace. Same body but different guy. I'm not gonna count the bosses as separate enemies, even though whatever. Then there's
Shield.
Yeah, dude with a shield. Then there's the dual wielding axe guy.
Yep, berserker kind of guy.
Throws them, and then there's the guy with the heavy axe.
But they all play the same. They're all just melee. Like,
That guy with the dual axe throws them sometimes.
let's get into like combat. Like,
yeah,
it's a very, very simple and easy.
I think we should also. This might be a good time to talk about the weird control stuff as well. Was anyone else bothered that it was shooter controls? It was strafe walking instead of free running around, even though it was a third-person game. Because that immediately bothered me. It's like
I
left
don't
and
really
right.
have an issue with that.
I played keyboard and mouse, so I can't really give that input.
If you run sideways, you only can strafe. You don't. Your character doesn't turn, which it felt like an over-the-shoulder shooter for me because of that.
I've played third-person games like that.
I don't know. It just feels clunky to me, but
It definitely felt a little bit clunky for me. Although pretty much most hack and slash kind of games feel kind of clunky to me. So I don't know. It felt it felt pretty standard. Like, oh, you've got your block, heavy, light, dodge, stuff like that. It felt pretty standard hack and slash game.
Any of you abuse the combos that you can do? Or not combos, but there are infinite combos for each enemy type you can pull.
Yeah.
I abused the counter. That's what I did.
Wait, there's a counter?
Yeah, when like they attack, like you can deflect and then just attack immediately.
Oh, I didn't know that. What I do is let's see. Oh, the counter's the punch thing, right? The B on a. I guess I don't know what it is on a keyboard.
For me, it's E. Or control, sorry.
So yeah, on controller, let's see, there are the 4 attacks because there's light, heavy. Well, there's light, heavy, there's dodge, and then there's the it's just called a regular melee, but it's like the stun. But yeah, for the basic enemies, you can do stun, and then you can either get 3 light hits in or a stun and 1 heavy consistently. And then the shield guys are dodge to the left and then attack, and dodge to the left and attack, and you can infinite combo them that way.
Yep.
And,
dude, the shield people are just such meatbags. It's bullshit.
Yeah. Yep. I think the point in the they just felt tedious, and then there was some point in the game where I was realizing how, I think it was the area with all the I don't know what they were, the undead body area, whatever, the one place that was supposed to be hell.
Sea of Corpses. Or whatever.
Yeah, I loved the combat. That's like the area where I started liking the combat because I was like, wait a second. Heavy hits kill in like 2 hits, and you can use focus while in combat. Does anyone else know that?
Yep.
So like I was where I discovered it, and I was like, oh my god! And you do more damage while in focus mode. And I was like, holy shit! How did I miss this? So it's like,
well, you get stronger later in the game as well because you get that.
Yeah, you get upgraded, or whatever. I'm not gonna ruin it for the other people because it sounds like this type of game. It's short enough. You may as well finish it. If you own it.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of discussion where I'm just going to put in like a spoiler tag for the entire thing because it's like, it's like 6 hours.
It's totally fitting for this game too, to just bounce all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I like more than anything. I want to talk about the ending, and this really sucks if none of you have gotten there.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that yet.
I'm definitely gonna finish it tomorrow.
I think we should probably leave that till the end. I kind of spoiled the ending for myself because I was reading the Wikipedia article because I wanted to research a little bit how the kind of research they did into mental health before doing this game and just kind of the history and everything. So I I kind of spoiled it.
Yeah, I will say I think the actual ending, personally, for me, it spoiled a lot of the story leading up to it. For me, I was just like,
Well, let's just leave the ending
Yeah.
for later.
yeah.
Anyways, continuing on combat. Anyone have a difficult time like doing it at all?
No.
I was struggling a little bit against the beast, but I also haven't played it in like months and just picked it up again tonight, so I was kind of having a hard time remembering everything.
Yeah, I didn't really have too many problems, but I'm pretty early in the game, so I was just like button mashing the whole time. Like it was a combination of button mashing, and if I thought they were gonna hit me, I'd just parry.
That's good job. You're a master at the game already.
How many, like, have you guys, because I know it said like this is one of the game mechanics, if you die enough times, you lose your progress, or at least that's what the game says. Did
Does
any of
anyone
you
want a spoiler with that? It's not really a story spoiler, but
you learn about it pretty early?
well, no. Do you want me to give you a spoiler about the way that works? It's
Oh,
not. They don't actually tell you in the game. I heard about this. So like, and after I finished it, I looked it up because I was curious.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah. You can't fail from that.
Really?
It's just part of the game. They want you to think you can.
Oh, that's
I have even like noticed.
Well, yeah, because I don't know if you notice, when you die, it doesn't actually move any farther up your arm, and if it does, it has an opacity fade. Because I did that where I died a couple times in a row, and I was like, it's not going past this one part. It's like when I die, it resets to being up high, and then it fades to being down low.
It's totally story wise because it was below my elbow before, and then I had like this whole story sequence happen in cutscene, and then by the end of it, it's all the way up to my shoulder.
Yeah, you die. You're forcibly killed repeatedly in this game, like, without choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that happened to me once, like the shadow guys that you can't hit.
Although in the beast fight, I died multiple times, and it got to the point where I was pretty much fighting the beast in darkness the entire time because I was so like fucked up from dying so much.
Well, okay, so with that area, that's something I noticed. That's actually a pretty large arena, and only the center has light anyway,
Yeah.
which makes it really difficult because you're like, oh, if you get out of there, you can't tell if you're just almost dead or if you're just in the darkness, and it's really hard to find the light again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I ended up just frantically just dodging and then doing one hits.
Yeah.
Like, I got stuck out there, and I was like, oh god. Yeah.
I want to speak about these dumbass puzzles, man. Like first the lining up one, like that's. I wish somebody could have thought of something a little bit more interesting than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like those like perspective puzzles, but like
Well, not the rune
Wait,
ones.
oh,
Maybe
not
the
the rune
illusion ones. The illusion ones I thought were like the ones with the crows. If you know what I mean?
yeah,
Those ones were okay because they were a little bit more in depth than just the runes, which are line up two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the runes, it gives you a proximity alert. Like, yeah, you're near where you can see it.
That's what bothered me about them the most. Is just like they like made it super easy to find them.
Yeah. Once I
Well,
realized that,
They
I
probably
never.
tested it, and like maybe it was like just way too hard without it. Like I'm sure they easily tested that part.
Oh,
Maybe.
so
Yeah.
on that
Maybe
note,
it's like maybe it's possible to have like difficulty modes for like the actual game. I've never actually seen that where they actually have difficulty modes for just non-combat gameplay where you can like turn all that stuff off. I think that would be interesting to have in this game because a big part of this game is like a lack of HUD, and it feels a lot more immersive, and that is a little bit immersion breaking to have like those big glowy like go here sort of things.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else felt this way while playing the longer ones of those puzzles. All I could think was the Ocarina of Time water temple and the switches. And I was like, yep, it's going to be running back and forth in a bunch of switches, isn't it? Yep. Like the hoops, I could not think of them as anything other than switches.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I go through the hoop, that door is now gone. I go here, and the door's up. It's like, oh, okay.
The thing that sucks about like that is like you're doing a lot of backtracking, and your character is just like really slow though in the game.
Yeah. Did you notice the performance problems though? While like if you beelined while running, did you notice that the game stutters?
My game has never stuttered. Like it just gets really blurry all of a sudden,
Oh yeah, the motion
and it
blur.
just stays like consistent. I don't know. It's nuts.
Yeah. So
It's nuts in combat.
it
Like,
may just be problems with my drivers. It's not my power issue on my computer's part, but because I turned it all the way down to medium, I still had about a part where the game would slow to a crawl after, like if you jog in a beeline towards the next exit or the next area, it would like slow to a crawl for like 2 seconds and then be full speed again. It would just load the next area, but it would do that like every 15 feet. And I was like, oh, and even on the lowest one, I noticed like it dropped a frame or two. Like there'd be a little skip every now and then. So like, I don't know, maybe it's just I have the least ideal system for running this game, or just my drivers are all wacky. But I noticed that consistently, and I was like, well, I can either play on low or just learn to take it, and I eventually did. But yeah, I don't think I ever didn't have that jog button held down, because the jog speed is like Halo 1 normal speed.
Yep. To me, it feels like Gears of War, just like speeding up. Ooh, just
where it feels faster, but it's not really
yeah,
much. Yeah.
just slightly change the animation.
What do you
What
think of?
Oh, go ahead.
Do we have? Well, I assume we have more to discuss with the gameplay. But what did you think of the boss fights? I know I've only done one of them, but I thought the one I did, like, I got to Cert, and it's a pretty standard fight. He's got his like AOE smash and like his bits of invincibility, and you just beat the shit out of him when his guard isn't up. And
Yeah.
I thought the boss fight was pretty cool. I like the whole setting of this game. It's a setting you don't see very very often. It's kind of like that kind of old Celtic kind of what I expect the next God of War to be like, except a lot grittier and a lot more like realistic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they make the bosses like really intimidating, which is nice, and like they feel threatening. However, to me, when actually going up to them, I felt not really a challenge or anything, but it felt really awesome fighting them, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
They're
I've only
definitely
played
more
one.
interesting fights than all the like common.
Yeah,
The common ones have way too many enemies at once. Or it's like, oh, you're gonna have to kill 12 enemies this time.
Yeah.
Some of them are just sponges to
Yeah.
hit. It's dumb.
It did feel kind of weird fighting the regular guys. Like when you have multiple of them attacking them, it didn't really feel like the game was designed for you to fight multiple guys. Because, like in Dark Souls, if you just swing your sword and two of them are right next to each other, you'll hit both of them. But it doesn't really happen in this game, and that's kind of what this makes this feel. Just feels a little bit weird. Like it's not designed for you to fight multiple enemies at one time.
Yeah, I couldn't even figure out how to switch targets at all, and I'm almost done with the game. The only way I like switch targets is by like countering somebody that's like swinging from behind. So yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't tell you on PC.
can you switch
With
targets?
keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, I was able to.
With the controller, it's just the right joystick.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look it up, but like I don't even need to because it's not really needed. But I don't know. What were you gonna say, Marcus?
I forget. It was something when you said that something's not possible. Oh, the hitting multiple enemies. It's possible later in the game. I guess maybe just because the enemies are grouped up more, but once you get better stuff.
You can do it early in the game. It's just depending on how they're lined up and shit.
Yeah, it's just you almost have to get lucky early on.
They have to be
Literally-
really close together.
Yeah. And I will say heavy attacks seem to have just inherently more reach somehow than light attacks.
Seem to have just like wider swings and all that.
Yeah, just just more range overall too.
Right.
What do you guys?
There's more
Sorry,
about
go.
gameplay. I was just gonna say, if we're done about gameplay, I've got some stuff to say about the aesthetics.
Yeah, go for it.
This game does a very good job of making everything look really shitty.
I have to agree.
Yeah, it's this really big contrast between like light and darkness. Like the first time you get to the big beach with the bridge, that looks really nice because the sun is shining and everything. And then you've got like when you're wading through a swamp and you're covered in like blood and dirt and shit, and it looks really good. I like this game. Looks really good. It's very...
Oh no, I was going with the opposite. I thought you meant it makes it really good. Like, the opposite point. It looks really bad in that there are things like specific things that looked good and other specific things that actually looked bad, and not like detailed bad, but like, well, yeah, no, they looked like I saw some ultra low resolution rock texture, which I know is
I saw some
bitch about.
I saw like a waterfall that was like, oh, that's obviously just like a texture moving over a plane when I got really close to it. But I thought in general this game looked very nice.
I don't know.
What about like when they had the fucking lights effect, like on torches and all that, and they showed like multiple images and like stretched out and everything?
Those I didn't like the way that worked, because it worked in just the right way where you could get a torch like image the size of your person when you have a torch like 80 yards out.
Yeah.
It just be like ultra low pixel density. I was like,
Yeah, you just
ooh.
can count the pixels then.
Yeah, I took a snap of a couple of those too. 'Cause
I thought it was an interesting choice that they did that.
yeah, as long as I mean, if you never stopped to look at that, then you would just kind of be like, oh, that's weird and trippy, I guess. That
Of
maybe
course, everyone's gonna stop and like mess around with it because it is pretty trippy.
Something aesthetics wise I did notice is I thought it was weird that when you first start talking to Druth, he's got like this weird filter on him which almost makes him like look like realistic, but he's blurrier than your character.
I think they
they
do
just did videos,
record
right?
them,
Yeah, it feels like
and they
they just
just
put like a filter on like a live action person. Just
I'm pretty sure they did.
yeah, they
it's
just turn the opacity down and stuff and put it in video.
which it was kind of a weird contrast between seeing him being like right next to your character and being like looks kind of off, but maybe that's what they were going for with the kind of style of the game.
That's one thing I don't want to, like, I'm willing to give them credit, but I don't want to let anything go because anything BS go because of the excuse that they meant to have it that way because it's a game about mental illness and it's meant to be weird. It's like some of the stuff is, but other things are like, no, that was just like you could have done that one thing better, which I know is still something to nitpick and bitch about.
I
But-
think it could have been just our choice.
Yeah, I don't know.
'Cause I don't think it's like, I think it's weird, but I think it's weird in a good way.
Yeah, I don't think it looked bad. It just kind of stood out to me.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What does the other artist think? Noah. AFK.
Yeah, I think he's probably I think he's doing something.
Wonderful.
Something that I did think, like a lot of the special effects, I thought looked really good. Like the when you're starting out the game and it's like it's like kind of hard to describe. It's like the black particles that are like flying everywhere. I thought that looked really good. I thought the water effects looked really nice. Like I said, I think a lot of the lighting effects look really good. Your character looks really good. I think I saw this, maybe it was a Kotaku article or something where it said like the actress who played the main character won some kind of award, and yeah,
Something
I think
for acting, and it was like her first time doing an acting thing.
yeah, and I think this is a very cinematic game. It's a very interesting kind of experience. Like I played it in my room with the lights off, just that playing that game, and it's a really good way to play it. Like I don't normally like horror games, but I wouldn't even really call this. I would call this a psychological horror game.
Like a thriller.
Yeah, I definitely prefer that kind of horror game to the kind of just jump scare bullshit games.
I think thriller might be giving it a little too much credit, though. It's not that intense to be called a thriller.
So, I don't know.
I really loved the animations for fighting. I thought they were awesome. Just a lot of flipping around and really felt like you're hitting the guys, which is nice.
Yeah. It was something I wish, like, I feel like I've been saying this with a lot of games, but I felt like I wish they had gone further with it. Like, this game obviously had a bit of a budget, and I kind of wish there had been a little bit more variety between the guys you were fighting. Maybe when you were hitting them, like, bits of their, like, clothing and bones and stuff would, like, fly off or something, and I don't know, I felt like I wish they had done more with it, but, I don't know.
I may have some input for this. It's not necessarily negative like all my other stuff. I've heard that this game was originally just going to be a Viking fantasy game, and they didn't like what was going, or something wasn't going well, and they were looking for alternatives, and they had this brought up, and that's when they started doing that. So then many of the assets may have already been made, in terms of it just being a standard fantasy game. Like,
yeah, I kind of did. I was like, when I was researching that, I kind of looked at that, and it said, like, yeah, originally the mental health thing was still gonna be there, but it was gonna be more of a background thing until they kind of switched it over to be like a game about accurately portraying mental health issues. And I mean, I don't really know how that affected the game development or their budget or anything, but that is something I read.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of the music?
I thought it was good. I thought the sound design in general was really nice.
I can't say I remembered it because honestly, I can't think of any part of the music that was in this entire game.
I can't really either.
I played it 2 days ago.
I just remember the sound design in general. I don't remember any of the like actual music.
Yeah, I don't remember having any thoughts about it. I can't think of a single, like, any part of any sound effect. So, I mean, well, that sound effect.
Not very memorable.
Definitely not memorable music.
Which, I mean, with this kind of game, makes it a little bit of sense. Like, it's probably going to be more in the background.
I think the most intense the music gets is during the combat. So
yeah,
that's it. And it's pretty generic, like combat, like in fantasy games. So
yeah, I could guess what it sounds like. Something like dun 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 dun. But then in the background, because it's not supposed to be intense. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Oh god, I was gonna ask something, but I've completely forgotten about it. Oh yeah, it was like the whole thing about the kind of recent phenomena of games with really big budgets that they're obviously trying to make a lot more cinematic. Like you see it with games like Detroit Become Human or whatever it's called, and then you had like, what was the game about time where
Quantum Leap?
Yeah, Quantum Leap. Games like those that are obviously like treating it more like a movie, making it a lot more of an experience, and maybe putting less work into the actual gameplay and game mechanics of the game. I feel like this is kind of like that, but at the same time, I like games like that, and I think there's definitely a market for games like that.
Personally, I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I personally don't play those kind of games as much, but I understand why they exist. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of games like that. I would rather just watch like a TV show about it. Yeah, like if I play a game, I want to play a game. So this game might not exactly be my kind of game, but I definitely maybe it's just the setting of this game, but I do enjoy the experience of this game.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like I like this sort of variety, and I think a game can totally hold its own just by being fully in story and not a whole lot of detail in like the game mechanics and whatnot. Um, and I feel like this is more of like experimental because they like really went full out with like cinematic and acting wise, rather than their cheap mechanics. And I don't know. I think it's definitely worth trying out for anyone.
Do you think it's worth trying out for $30 though, or
30
wait for a sale?
That
$30.
is that is the $30 question.
I think $20 because the gameplay isn't so bad. Like it's doable and it can be fun. But really like that whole experience with the voices and just the story.
Yeah.
I don't know about the ending though. Yeah, so
Without me saying any more than I've said about the ending, after reaching the ending, I would have to say it's not worth buying for $30 at all. 20 is like if you've been wanting it, and I think everyone should play it at the point that it's I want to say $8. $8 is like doesn't matter if you want it or not. That's the point you should pick it up.
damn.
Which I don't know if is an insult or not.
It's almost like $1 an hour.
I don't know.
Dollar.
Yeah. No, there were certain
I feel
parts
like
where
if
I had
this
to
was
force
like-
myself to play.
My roommate told me like he liked the ending, so I don't know. Maybe it's somebody else will like it and you just don't, I guess.
Yeah. Whatever. I left a full review on Steam. It's like a page. Yeah, I wrote a page review.
Really? Was the review in favor of the game or
No,
not?
I did not recommend it. I give it a 2 out of 5.
Oh,
my god.
Oh shit!
Yeah, because it's like it's not a good game. It's a good story, but I can't call it a good game. In my opinion, I am not able to call it a good game.
that's mostly how I feel about a lot of these like more cinematic games. Is I don't think they're actually good games, but I think that they are good experiences. And it's like, are you willing to spend $30 for like a 5 or 6 hour experience? And you know, some people are. Some people don't like games that are like super mechanic heavy where you need to keep like, oh man, what combo do I need to do against this kind of enemy? Some people just want a game that they can relax and play and
But that's
enjoy.
part of it. I don't think this is a relaxing game.
Well, yeah, this game isn't relaxing.
So it's
but
like-
it's
Because it's like the stuff you have to do is kind of finicky, but it's also not intense enough. So I'm like, it kind of falls too far in the middle for me, where it's like it wants to be both, but it can't, because that's just not possible.
yeah, I understand what you're saying with that. And
I kind of think of like games like these because I'm sure we could like throw it in a similar category of like the Tall Tale games where it's like very story driven and not really mechanic based. And if we were to put it in those sort of categories, I'd go for it, and I think it's worth the money because I kind of sort of see it as if somebody were to go to the movies, you pay like probably $12 to see a movie or something, and you could go probably like 3 times for the price of this game. So 3 different movies compared to like this long story, I think it's pretty good.
yeah, like
And you're interacting with it.
like something I didn't mention, like the I do like the story so far. I don't know about the ending, but the voice acting, the rocks that you come to that give like bits of story, they're all very interesting. Like, and that's kind of what I like so far is I do really enjoy the setting. Like it seems like they've kind of taken steps to like represent everything like accurately, and the voice acting's great. The effects and everything are pretty good. And even though it's not really my kind of game, like if you're into those kind of games, seems worth it. Although I think a lot of people who play games who value those kind of game experiences, I think a lot of people might not like it for a lot of the reasons we've listed here, but some people are going to like it, some people aren't, and that's okay.
Do we have much more to say about this?
Are we gonna?
I want to say something. So, okay, the fire. How many people have gone through the fire thing, though? At least,
First boss?
because those not even the well,
Or the
yeah,
area
if you've gotten to the boss, those fire doors. All I could think when I walked up and pressed the thing, and then have to run through the gate, I only could think this is a racing game now. I was like, okay, I better have to turn left here. There's the track. It was just, I couldn't take that part seriously at all. I was like, someone was like, "Ooh, how do we extend this out? Let's draw fire around the edge." Nice. That part broke me. For a while after that, I could not take it seriously. I think it wasn't until the darkness that I took it seriously again.
Is everybody ready to good time to talk about the story?
Yeah. For
the people who know about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the point where we would put the spoiler tag up. But yeah, the only thing I read about the ending is the thing I read was.
Oh, wait, are we actually going to talk about the ending? Because if we
Yeah,
are, it sounded like.
I don't want to hear about the ending yet.
Okay, yeah,
yeah, because I'm totally gonna play.
Yeah.
Because Zach, if we want at the very end, it could just be you and me, and I'll talk with you because you've read about the ending and I've played it now. But
yeah, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who doesn't want it spoiled.
Yeah.
Are there any non-ending spoiler or not spoiler, non-ending story parts we should discuss or want to?
I don't really know because she's just like you see the whole journey as you're playing it. I don't know.
The only question I have is does anything supernatural ever actually happen, or is it right now? I kind of see it as nothing supernatural is actually happening, and it's just your psychosis that is making everything seem crazy.
So that's something that she's supposed to be going through. What is this? The what was she calling them? The Northerners? Just is that what it was?
She's supposed to be going into Helheim.
Yes, but in the stories, it's these wild men that she's fighting are supposed to be actual
Northerners, people. Essentially Northern England. In the 800th century.
Yeah, so in theory that these are, sort of that. So it's okay, well, how much of it is supposed to be in her mind? And I made some early predictions in the game, and one of them, my favorite prediction was that in fact she wasn't in any of these areas, but she was actually killing people, but they weren't she was a person running around killing townsfolk, and the enemies are the ones that are the quote unquote brave warriors that are standing up to this invader. You're this invader, and I really liked that as an idea.
That seems so typical.
But it's
that sort of stuff before.
Sure, but
it's like the one scene in SpongeBob where he's like, "Wait, I'm the maniac."
I mean, it wouldn't have been. I don't know, but yeah, I can't talk more about that, I guess.
Because at the beginning of the game, you see that big kind of bird-looking building, and you're like, "Oh, that's Helheim," and I'm like, "Wait, that's not Helheim. That's a building," and it's there's going to be a bridge made of gold, and it's "Oh, there's the bridge. That bridge isn't made of gold. That's a wooden bridge." So I'm obviously not far enough to really know what I think about the story yet, but it seems interesting enough to keep going with it and figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure. No, you're far enough that you've seen the cutscenes that involve her father, right?
Yeah, I think so. Or they talk about her father.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay. Because when I was seeing those, I'm like, oh, okay, we have some actual stuff going on now, where it seems like that may be something that's not just in her mind then.
Yeah.
Where everything else is probably, but I don't know.
Okay, I understand. Hmm.
Because those are like things that are. But that's the other thing. It's like there's so little detail in those, and they're so vague.
Yeah.
They make
Yep.
it really hard to be like, okay, well, I've had there's all this stuff that's going on, and the only things I know are true are these vague 30-second clips that I've gotten several of.
Right. I don't really have much more to add.
I don't know
you
what
guys
else.
wanna
Yeah, I've kind of provided everything that I've. Yeah, I haven't gotten that far in the game, so I can't really comment on the story too much.
All right. Do you want to talk with Marcus about the ending then?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Um,
Then I'm gonna roll out then.
Yeah, me
All
too.
right. Do we do we have like a decision on the next game we're playing at all? Like I saw it was
Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be Inner Space.
okay. That looks like a good
Um,
game. Has a great soundtrack. Listen to
Yeah,
the Inner Space soundtrack.
I was kind
it's
of
awesome.
meh on it until I saw the ending of the trailer, and I was like, damn. So, and it's on the Switch, so I'm gonna buy it for the Switch.
Oh, it is on the Switch.
Nice.
Hmm.
I think so.
That may be enough for me. I was thinking of skipping it. I was like, I saw it and I was like, I looked into this game and I was not interested. But if it's on the Switch, that's just enough for me.
Yep, it's on the Switch.
All
I
right.
think it just came out on the Switch not too long ago. All right. See you guys later then.
Yep. See you
Yeah.
guys.
See ya.
Should play Siege later. Oh shit, he's already
He's
gone.
already gone.
Rip.
All right. See you guys.
See you
Yeah.
now.
All right, Zach. So, how much do you know about the ending? And
So
do you
the-
want me to not spoil anything?
I don't really care about spoilers. I kind of know how it ends.
Okay,
so
so
what I read about the ending was it's not so much like what you're expecting is going to happen, like what she says, like, oh, I'm going to go make a deal with this person to release his soul. It's more like you learn that the darkness and everything bad is just like part of you, and it's something that you have to like learn to live with. And that's kind of like that's supposed to be a lesson about like psychosis and mental illness. Is it's like not something you can ever get rid of. It's something that you have to like learn to live with and deal with. And
I mean, that may be one way to take it. Okay, so there's a couple. The more literal one is more meaningful to me, which is she has the skull of the one guy she likes, of whatever his name is.
I think it's Dylan or something.
Yeah. I wrote Dill Pickles. I was not in my notes. I couldn't. I wrote him Dill Pickles, and I have Drew as the other guy. And I labeled the mom as mannequin, because she looks like a mannequin to me. So what the actual ending is gameplay wise, okay, so there's the thing with the dad. They clearly set it up where the dad is like convincing you that this is a sickness and that you shouldn't go into the world and you have to stay here.
Yeah, it's like
And-
your character's cursed or something.
Yeah. And I was like, ooh, that would be a fantastic ending. You go into the real world and the ending is her murdering her father or something. And then it would just be like the horror of that, of like actually having your wits about you and then doing something that where you know there's no coming back from that. Like still, like I was like, ooh, that would be neat. None of that. Don't get to see the father, even though they totally set it up that way, which I wasn't shocked exactly. But the actual ending pisses me off, and the actual ending is, okay, you go, and I shouldn't say actual, even with the alternative ending, the alternative ending is an extra cutscene before the final fights. So it doesn't even change anything. And it's stuff you'll know already. It's stuff that Drew, or whatever, it's the stuff that he tells you about himself from the runes. But if you get all the runes, they just kind of put them end to end and then have a video of him saying
Oh,
all
right.
of them. And I was like, oh, I've heard, because I had actually picked up all the ones about him, but not all of the ones total. So I'd heard all of it. I was like, oh, okay. I looked it up after I beat the game. And yeah, so then you go into this fight, and there's the thing that's supposed to be your mother, and you don't fight it, but it like stuns you occasionally, and there's a herd of enemies around you. and you kill them, and then they respawn. There's no respawning of them. There's no way to win. You just go and it forces you to give up. And it's like I was like, oh, I get it. I get the metaphor. Like, yeah, you can't overcome this. Like you said, it's you have to, it's something you're gonna have to deal with. You can't just fight it. You have to accept it or whatever. I get that, but I was kind of like, okay, guys, I get it, but this is bullshit.
Yeah, it's kind of a good lesson, but not so much like a good ending for a video game.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a good lesson. So that's the other thing. A lot of the visions are really pretentious, and they're trying to sound deep, but I could only take them as just super edgelordy. And I'm like, get out of here, you 13-year-old. Like, those just drove me so crazy. Like, I like the story in general, but like half of them, my eyes rolled into the back of my skull.
Okay.
They hurt. Like, there was one part of the game that was just it pissed me off so much that before the checkpoint, I closed out of it and I started it back up, and I muted the game and I turned on some really wacky music, and I played through it again. So I was like, it was a combat heavy part, and it was just like funk music, and I was like, this game is better now. But no, okay. So after that, after you surrender, what literally happens is the mannequin that represents your mother kills you with your own sword. Then you turn into Drew's head, or in the bag, the burlap one, and the mother turns into you, and you throw the head into the ravine. So it was. I took it. It makes more sense literally as accepting, or as her going through the stages of grief, more than it does
it's
mental
like
illness.
it's like letting go of like the fact that this person she cares about is dead, and not trying to like bring him back anymore.
Yeah, and then what happens after that? Because that's not just the end of it. The end of it is, oh, this isn't the end for me. She's like talking. I can't remember if she's talking to the camera or if this was a voice, but it was essentially. But that's another story for another time. And then she like looks at the camera and then walks away. And I was like, "Fuck you! I'm not playing a sequel. Like, I don't want to play another game to find out what happens now. I deserved the ending here." And it just that made me so mad.
That does sound kind of annoying. It is one thing that I found kind of interesting. Like, the voices in her head talk to you, and she sometimes like acknowledges that you're there. And
Which is
I found
neat.
that kind of interesting, but at the same time, that does sound kind of like a weird ending.
So yeah, the way there are a lot of things that are like, that's the way this game would have been a lot more interesting if it was a walking simulator. But then the way they treat it, like she talks to you sometimes. If you really were treated as a voice in your head, so then it's like a point and click walking simulator. So you can try to tell her where to go, but she might not listen to you because you're a voice in her head. Like. I was like, yeah, that would be great. And then it would be like, yeah, you have this helplessness because, you both are you kind of are this character, but you're not directly. You can't control what she does in the same way that she feels like she can't control what she's doing exactly because she can't tell. She knows she can't tell what's always real or not. And I was like I realized that, yeah, those are things that have been done before. Well, not necessarily that in that way, but like the same with her getting to kill her dad or something. Like, I don't get why the representation of her mother was the villain.
I always thought like
It didn't make any
I thought
sense.
the final boss was like Hela, like the goddess of death or whatever.
The final goddess, or the final boss is in one of the cutscenes. You see her mother getting burned by her father, like on a stake or whatever, on a pyre, not a pyre. She's tied up and she's being burned. And you see half of her face being burnt, and the mannequin that's crawling around has the same half of her face burnt. So I'm like, okay, the mannequin's her mom, and that's sort of kind of the final boss, but not really. Oh, it is though, because it's the thing. So that's where I was like, but why? She doesn't seem to have any animosity towards her mother. So I was like, I either missed something, or it's not supposed to represent that, or that just doesn't make sense.
I think the thing I read was like her father burns her mother because her mother was like, "Oh, it's not a curse; it's just like a part of you." And I think her mother also had the same thing she has, like the psychosis that they thought was like a curse.
Yeah. So maybe she blamed her mother for the curse. So that was her fighting it, thinking she could overcome it as a curse. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I
And
guess.
that was kind of like the story with her father. Like her father burned her mother because she was cursed, and then like told Senua like, "Oh, you're cursed. Like you're all that shit is real, and um, it's gonna be with you forever or whatever." And I don't know.
Which is weird because he's both giving bad advice and real advice at the same time.
Yeah,
It's real. It's going to be with you forever, so you should get used to it. And it's like, well,
but it's also evil.
yeah,
and
good advice for
You're
the
never gonna
wrong
get
reason.
fixed or whatever.
Yeah, which is both pessimistic and not what he needs to say, but also
And also,
kind of the
like,
right advice.
yeah, it's
which is
probably
like,
not great. Not a great move to burn her mother. It's also
Yeah, I got a Castlevania anime vibe with that.
Hmm.
If you've seen that,
is that like the one on Netflix?
yeah.
I have not seen that yet. Is it worth watching?
I thought so. I know people that are really off-put and irritated by it because the way the characters are portrayed. I thought it was fine. I mean, if you've watched anime, you can be prepared for it. Expect anime characters.
Yeah,
Or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I
characters
know
that
what
are
you mean.
way too sure of themselves or way too,
that just kind of act weird sometimes.
yeah. Or like the characters that are somehow already over established. So you're like, okay, they're gonna have no arc. And they're just gonna be like way too confident or way too overpowered or whatever. Typical anime stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But I got that vibe. I will say the whole aesthetic for me, I should have said this earlier, but that whole aesthetic, what it really made me want to do was play Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah. I watched like I follow some Let's Players, and I saw them. Most of them just played like through the first boss, but a lot of them were like, "Oh, this does remind me of Alloy from Horizon Zero Dawn," because it's just like badass like lady fighting stuff who's Celtic and has like dreads and stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing that's disappointing to me. I realize, like, I wish they had taken more time and they had developed it more thoroughly around the idea of the mental illness and had that be more of a core part and had it be less combat focused or something. Because if it was better as a game, it could stand out more as a game. I think that would accomplish more of the goals they were trying to, than this one did.
It definitely seemed like they didn't really know what they wanted to make with this, which like was pretty obvious in the creation of it. Like they didn't really know if they wanted to emphasize the mental health thing, and then they kind of switched over to it. So it wasn't meant to be that from the beginning. So I think that's kind of coming through in like the game not really knowing what it is. So I think that's kind of holding it back. But
yeah. Also, it doesn't. I always look at a game as a game. I can't help it.
yeah,
So there were certainly parts where, like, there was a segment of the game where I turned the voices off because they were a detriment to the game, and not as gameplay, as the story. Because I have a dark sense of humor, so the voices would say something like "You're too weak," and I would chuckle, and I was like, "This isn't good. Like, this is just making the game like." I'm like, no, like I'm okay with that sense of humor and that type of humor, and I realize it's not intended as humor, but I can't take it as anything other than that. When they're like,
yeah, it's like the game.
like you're stupid, and I'm like, you are stupid. I'm gonna make you jump off this bridge.
Yeah, it's like the game. It's like the game is taking itself so seriously that you can't. Take it seriously.
Yes, absolutely. And there, at least at some points. By the way, if you turn there's a volume for voices in the game, you can turn that off, and setting it to 0, the ones that prompt you for things still play, just not the ones that are the ambient ones.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
So during cutscenes they still play. The rune ones don't, which is a bummer. But the ones that are constantly saying things don't. And I will say it made the game a lot more spooky to me because there's a lot of ambient sound in the background, or at least I remember there being lots. And what I remember was that it's the type of sounds that let your mind fill it in to be words. So like you can think you're hearing things without it being.
I feel like that would be a lot creepier than actual like voices just like whispering stuff to you.
Oh, same. And I was like, oh, this could be really cool. But I understand that they may want to. I feel like having voices in your head would be a problem anyway. Like, if someone has a problem, like is schizophrenic, this may not be the right game to play. And if you want ones that can make it very easy to hear, to make you think you're hearing things that aren't there, like that might be bad. But if you're already playing the voices in people's head, I don't see why it would be worse to take it to the next step and just make it, have the weird sounds. But I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about it. I mean, I think I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm pretty confident it's not going to be the best game I've ever played, but I certainly think it's worth finishing. Now that I've bought it, I feel like, well, if I put $30 into this game, I feel like I should finish it. But
yeah, I thought $30 was a lot for this.
Yeah, I feel like it's a game that I would be perfectly fine with, like buying for like 40% off or something.
But would you have preferred it was a walking simulator? So no combat, no puzzles. And then like half the length and probably half the price.
Half the length and half the price walking simulator game.
Well, probably a lot shorter because the total cutscenes are way shorter. But yeah, I mean, because it just has lots of empty space and lots of things that fill time. So if you remove more of that, what do you think about it? What would you think about it?
I mean, I'm not really a fan of walking simulators. And I think it would be kind of a detriment if you took out like the boss fights. Something I think would be interesting is like if you left the boss fights and kind of made it more of a like maybe a Cuphead or something, like where it's just boss fights, where it's just walking and story and cinematic shit between the boss fights, and then you do this like big mechanic heavy boss fight and then you move on to the next one. I feel like that could have made the game better, kind of. I don't know. Maybe there was I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying.
You good with ending it here?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add.